We've issued a WRAL weather alert day for Wednesday's heavy rain and strong winds. See when the heaviest rain arrives where you live.
The EPA is banning the use of 2 cancer-causing chemicals, including one that's used in dry cleaning. Find out which cleaners are using the safe alternative.
Then, from Super Bowl winning coach to UNC's head coach, we look into Bill Belichick's chances of leading the Tar Heels. All right, welcome. Now, look, if you thought the rain was done after this afternoon, not quite yet. Think again. We're in for some more rainy days ahead. Thanks for being with us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. So the rain is back tomorrow in the afternoon. We could see a few strong storms on Wednesday, though. That's why we're calling that day a WRAL weather alert day. Kat Campbell joins us now. The concern, Kat, in a lot of this is going to do with the wind.
Yes, we're talking about widespread gusts to 40 miles per hour. Then you add on an inch or two of rain between now and Wednesday. And we also were added to the severe weather threat. Now, this does not include all of Wake County. It's really east of Raleigh, mainly along and east of I-95. This region in green, that's where we've got the greatest threat for some damaging wind gusts, perhaps over 40 miles per hour, and any thunderstorms that develop. During the day tomorrow, we wake up to the potential for some patchy dense fog, couple of showers around throughout the day, but it's really late tomorrow evening and tomorrow night that we see the rain filling in. So this starts to approach during the evening commute tomorrow, filling in later on tomorrow night. And then as the front gets closer to us, we start to see the rain intensity picking up. So heavier rain likely Wednesday morning. And we've got the stronger wind gusts picking up on Wednesday as well. Through 1 o'clock, you can see pretty widespread rain on the radar here. I think the roads are probably going to be a bit of a mess on Wednesday. I'll have a town-by-town look at the wind gust potential coming up.
Right here in the WRAL Live Center, we are tracking a live update where officials are giving us an update on the suspected killer of the shooting of the CEO last week in New York City. Right here, you're looking live at Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. He is currently flanked by police from the New York Police Department. They are all currently in Pennsylvania because this is actually where that suspected killer, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, was identified and located. We can show you some video now, the moment that he was actually being transported to court. There he is right there, the 26-year-old. He at this hour has since been arraigned in the Blair County, Pennsylvania court. Blair County in the specific area is about 275 miles outside of New York City. According to court documents, we'll break all this down. This is according to the Associated Press. Mangione was sitting at a table in the rear of a McDonald's in Altoona wearing a blue medical mask, as well as looking down at a silver laptop and had a backpack on the floor. When he pulled his mask down, Altoona police officers, quote, immediately recognized him as the suspect in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. When they asked for his ID, he is accused of providing officers with a fake ID, including a fake name, and it also came from the state of New Jersey. Of course, we're going to be listening in and tracking all these live updates, and we'll bring them to you back in the Live Center. Back to you.
Such a strange story. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, Aaron. So this week, state lawmakers are expected to take that final step to pass the bill that combines storm relief money and those big shifts to government power. We've been talking about it a lot here at 7 o'clock. Well, a group of people at the state capitol right now are protesting this as part of the Moral Monday movement that began back in 2013. WRL's Julian Grace is there for us. He's live. Julian, pretty big crowd, too. We're talking about a couple hundred people.
Yeah, Jan, I want to set the scene here for you about that big crowd that you just mentioned. I am standing right in the middle of Jones Street, and you might ask yourself, why is he in Jones Street? Because this massive crowd right here has taken over the sidewalk right in front of the legislative building. Now, this crowd started at the state capitol around 5:30, where we heard from speaker after speaker. And then they marched down Bicentennial Plaza all the way over to the legislative building. Now, let's tell you about what this crowd did earlier around about 5:30 or so. We heard from speaker after speaker who spoke against Senate Bill 382. They're asking state lawmakers not to pass the bill. During that session, we heard it from a number of speakers who said that Western North Carolina needs money. That bill is tied to funding those in Western North Carolina, but they say they don't want the bill tied to helping people and also stripping powers away from the incoming governor and other legislative leaders as well. So what is going to happen next? This crowd says they're going to stay out here for a little while, making sure their voices are heard, and we plan on talking to some of those who are in the crowd. We already heard a fiery speech from Reverend William Barber, who was in the crowd earlier today as well. So tonight at 10 and 11, you'll hear why the people here want to make sure their voices are heard, and we're going to hear from some of those people later tonight at 10 and 11. For now, reporting live in downtown Raleigh, Julian Grace, WRAL News.
Julian, thank you. The EPA is cracking down on toxic chemicals that have been used in dry cleaning for years. These chemicals are tied to cancer and other health risks. WRAL's Liz McLaughlin explains these new rules and how local businesses are responding.
One of those chemicals is an industrial solvent commonly used in dry cleaning. I spoke with area cleaners who say that safer alternatives have been available for decades.
And we do around 22,000 pieces a week.
Ben Hilker owns Brothers Cleaners, a family-run business in Raleigh that's been around since 1916.
These are our dry cleaning machines that use heated hydrocarbon.
Hilker moved to eco-friendly solvents in 2015, stepping away from the industry standard, a chemical known as PERC.
Our customers, they like knowing that what we're cleaning with is good for the environment.
PERC, or tetrachloroethylene, is one of two chemicals targeted by the EPA.
It'll eat through concrete if left unchecked. It's a very aggressive.
Tide Cleaners also uses an alternative solvent called green earth.
It's good that we're getting away from something that's bad for people.
The second chemical, TCE, or trichloroethylene, is used in products from furniture care to auto repair. It has contaminated drinking water in communities like Camp Lejeune and Stony Hill in Wake Forest. The EPA's new rules ban most uses of these chemicals, a change some residents welcome.
Anything that we can be able to do something to be able to curtail the spread of cancer is a really good thing.
In North Carolina, hundreds of contaminated dry cleaning sites remain. About a third are already in a voluntary cleanup program, including more than 95 in Wake and Durham counties.
And by all of us working together, there's a lot of money in those resources to be able to, help everybody do the proper things.
While these toxic chemicals are being phased out, cleanup of contaminated sites will continue for decades to come.
For PCE, the agency is finalizing a 10-year phase-out for the use in dry cleaning. However, dry cleaning machines using the chemical will be prohibited in 6 months. In Raleigh, I'm Liz McLaughlin, WRAL News.
Thank you to Liz. So this has been pretty intriguing. Bill Belichick, of all people, started talks with UNC to be the new head coach, potentially, of the Tar Heels. That's right. Belichick, one of the greatest NFL coaches in history. This guy coached in 9 Super Bowls. He won 6 of them. He dominated the NFL for 20 years with only one other coach winning more games than him. UNC fans heard this news. They're wondering, can this be real? ESPN's Adam Schefter says you better believe it.
The talks with North Carolina are real. I understand he met with them yesterday for 5 hours. Sheesh. I don't think you spend 5 hours after days of discussions with a university if there's not something to it.
All right, so if it's real, let's talk about it, shall we? Joined now by WRAL investigative sports reporter Brian Murphy. It's really funny because even before you came on, you're over there taking phone calls on this, so it's developing now and apparently creating a little bit of turmoil at the university.
Yeah, can you imagine the hoodie here in Chapel Hill on
right.
the sideline? This search process has been a mess. I mean, quite frankly, we've known for a while, and I've been reporting on the differences of opinion between the Board of Trustees and Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham. The board's taken a lot of shots at Bubba Cunningham, and now senior administrator tells me this process would be done. Not necessarily that Bill Belichick would be hired, but the search would be over, process wrapped up, if not for the Board of Trustees inserting themselves into this process. Hard to distinguish what's going on in this process, but clear that there's some animosity happening at the university level.
No, we know Belichick isn't the only candidate, of course, for a job like this, but he's getting all of the headlines. And just out of curiosity, what would it take, you think, for the university to close a deal with a guy like this?
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of things. One, there's been talk that maybe his son, who's the defensive coordinator at Washington, would need to be on the staff. You'd probably want some sort of succession plan if you're hiring a 72-year-old. Other than that, money, right? Money is what makes all of this work, not only for his salary, not only for his assistant coach salary pool, but for players. We're talking NIL money, we're talking revenue sharing money. If Belichick is going to do this, I'm going to imagine he wants to succeed right away, and that means money.
Speaking of money, they're going to still be paying Mac Brown, right? Because he still has the rest of his contract. Although, as we talk about that chain of events, UNC again just fired Mac Brown. He's 73 years old. Belichick is 72 years old. Brown's the one on the left there, by the way. I mean, these guys, they're both at the tail end of their career. College football is changing rapidly. It's more about money than it ever has been before. And Belichick says that he wants to treat a college team essentially like a college course for the NFL. Here's how he put it on the Pat McAfee show today.
If I was in a college program, the college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for the players that had the ability to play in the NFL. It would be a professional program, training, nutrition, scheme, coaching, techniques that would transfer to the NFL.
So do you think these players, these recruits are more interested in being in this pipeline, or are they more interested in NIL money where UNC isn't really competing with the top programs?
I mean, I think you're going to have different pitches that appeal to different players. Certainly his resume speaks for itself. And if Belichick were to be the head coach, you would think lots of players that want to get to the NFL would say this might be my best shot. We've seen Deion Sanders with unorthodox recruiting practices build a pretty good program at Colorado in just 2 years. There are all kinds of different ways to go about this. This would at least give UNC an identity that's different than they've had in the past.
All right, well, keep letting us know about those calls and texts you'll be getting all night. All right, Brian, thank you. All of you, please don't go anywhere. We're just getting started here at 7 o'clock. In about 2 minutes, we're going into the in-depth mailbag. We need to talk about that North Carolina resolution to update the U.S. Constitution. We're going to have an update for you on that and see you back here right after the break. It is a new week. Who's ready for a little Monday night mailbag here at 7 o'clock? I'm really feeling the love in the inbox these days. Maybe it's the time of year. Maybe it's just the season of giving. Elizabeth wrote, thank you for what you do. I hope you have a very nice Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Elizabeth. Thank you for writing in. Tom wrote in from Central Florida. Great stories. Want to move from Florida? He asked. I'll even serve as a reference. You know, Tom, it's funny. I used to work in Florida. I lived there for a couple of years in Fort Myers. It's where I met my wife. I have fond memories of Florida, but I think I'm gonna stick around. If I moved, Eddie would be upset. He sent me an email and said, I know you've been all over the place in your career. Don't leave. You bring great insight and perspectives to the topics you discuss. I don't agree with them all, but it makes me think about a different perspective. Eddie, thank you. You have kind of perfectly captured what this segment is all about. But I got to tell you, and you already know this, I'm not perfect. And there are a whole lot of other people, I could read emails from them, people who agree with that statement. Jeff said as much in an email about our segment on constitutional amendments. He says we missed a couple of things. Jeff's email is, well, it's super long, but I'm going to boil it down to this. Quote, the legislature passed a resolution promoting U.S. term limits. The Convention of States project is another resolution. So, Jeff, thank you so much for pointing this out and writing in. You are exactly right. I said North Carolina joined other states in the call for a big U.S. constitutional convention like we saw back in 1787. That's wrong. It was more specific than that. What they did call for is a convention for a single amendment, and that's term limits on Congress. So since Jeff took the time to write in and point this out, and since we missed the point, we missed the mark a little bit, let's talk about it, all right? Let's talk about term limits. North Carolina's resolution promotes setting term limits on how many terms a U.S. senator or U.S. House rep can serve. It doesn't say what those term limits should be. It just says lawmakers should come together and figure it out. And it is a little ironic that a legislature run by two guys who have been in the state lawmaking business for over 20 years is calling for term limits, but that's what it takes. It is a bit ironic, but it's happening. But a lot of those people are on board with this. A 2023 poll from the University of Maryland's Program for Public Consultation found that 83% of registered voters support an amendment setting term limits. This is one of a few ideas that Republicans and Democrats and independents and a lot of people just all seem to agree on. Now, one of the arguments is that term limits would create a Congress that better reflects its constituents. A Republican senator from Wyoming said it this way: senators and members of Congress become out of touch with the rest of the country when they find themselves in Washington for too long. A Democratic House rep from Minnesota wrote, when we have too many members that are around for 30, sometimes 50 years, we are literally precluding participation of younger citizens. Some of the arguments against term limits point out that spending a long time in Congress might not be such a bad thing. I mean, think about it this way. If a lawmaker has a better understanding of how Congress works, that experience could make them more effective. Another argument is technically, Congress already has term limits. They're called elections. The Idaho Secretary of State's office put it this way: term limits is based on the arrogant assumption that the voters are incapable of deciding who they want to represent them in Congress. And any congressman who is made ineligible for re-election by term limits feels no restraints upon his behavior, since he will not face the voters again at the next election to answer for his conduct. Both sides of this conversation make some compelling points, and it appears North Carolina has picked a side in that argument. So for now, it's just a conversation we're having. An actual amendment is pretty far off. So far, 9 states have called for this. You need 34 total to get a convention started. You need 38 at the end of it to approve the actual terms of the amendment. And it sounds like a really tall task, but consider, we have amended the Constitution 27 times in our history, the most recent one in 1992 over congressional salaries. That was pitched as an effort to prevent corruption. Some people think term limits could do the same. I want to thank Jeff again for sending in that email. This is what the mailbag is all about. It's not just fan mail, all right? It's a conversation, a way to keep us transparent. Your feedback keeps us honest and it keeps us accurate. That said, the fan mail is pretty fun too. I like that. I do. So please, let me know what you think. Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. Do you think term limits are a good idea? What else do you want to see us cover in this segment? Tell us what is on your mind, and we will go in depth. Kat?
And the bulk of the rain's out of here for now. It's going to be coming back, but after a dreary start to your Monday morning, a nice improvement out there tonight as the rain clears out on the dual Doppler 5000 radar. A lot more coming. We've got a flow out of the southwest that's drawing in all this moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and then you combine that with an approaching cold front, and a strong one at that. You're going to get a lot of rain. Here's the thing: we need the rain. The bad news is that we could just see too much at once. So we're looking at the threat of some heavy rain at times. Tuesday night into Wednesday, 1 to 2 inches of rain. That's a pretty healthy dose. It's a low-end flood threat, though, that we're going to have to watch, despite being in a drought for pretty much the entire state of North Carolina. Maximum wind gusts, another concern here. We're talking about the threat of winds gusting up to about 40 miles per hour on Wednesday. Some higher gusts possible in the mountains, especially the higher elevations, and the coast could see some pretty blustery winds as well. We're going to see the strongest winds as soon as a cold front swings through the area. It's going to be right along that cold front midday through the early afternoon Wednesday. So let's talk about the rain potential. Tomorrow morning, there will be a chance for some rain around, not as widespread as what we saw out there today. That's good news. Also, the threat for some patchy dense fog. So check in with meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner before you leave the house. Keep in mind, fog is one of those things that can change pretty quickly throughout the morning, so check in for updates from her. She'll have them about every 10 minutes here on WRAL. 70 degrees, the potential high tomorrow. That's as long as we see some breaks in the clouds. Midday and early afternoon, we think we'll see some of that to warm us up. And then around 5 or 6 o'clock, we start to see our next band of rain move in. This one could have an impact on the evening commute, dinner commute tomorrow, so keep that in mind before you leave the house. And then the bulk of the rain really pushes in overnight into Wednesday. Wednesday, we've got some rain around for the morning commute, and that sticks with us midday as well. The worst of the weather is going to be right as this cold front moves through. That'll bring the heaviest rain, the strongest wind gusts as well. And then notice the cold air moving in on the backside of this system actually has the rain ending with some snow in the mountains. Just green here and red for heavy rain, but nothing in the form of wintry weather for us. It's just the rain and the blustery winds with this front. We clear out, we dry out Wednesday night, and then comes the cold. We're all the way down to 32 by Thursday morning. For your dog walk tomorrow, you should have some dry time to fit in the dog walk. It's going to be more on and off kind of showers during the day. That changes though as we get toward dinner time tomorrow night. We could begin to see some steadier rain pushing in. 100% chance of rain Wednesday at WRAL. hail weather alert day due to the impact on the roads from the widespread rain, as well as that threat for some blustery winds. Thursday and Friday, we dry out, definitely cool down, some upper 20s for lows again. Nice dry weather looking likely for Saturday. We've got the Cary Christmas Parade, the Durham Holiday Parade. It'll have a nice festive chill in the air. We should be back in the 60s by this time next week. Dan.
I like it. Thank you, Kat. Hey, I want to let you know, we are, of course, keeping an eye on that news conference about the murder suspect that was arrested after the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO. Tonight's last thing comes out of the Live Center right after the break. One last thing before we go here. Got Aaron Thomas on standby. A news conference started at 7 o'clock on that suspect in the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO. Aaron has been keeping an eye on it for us. What is the latest, Aaron?
Yeah, Dan, we're certainly learning a lot of information just in the past 20 minutes that this live news conference has been going on. So right here you see Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Behind him you have state police from Pennsylvania as well as police from New York Police Department that are also giving an update about the suspected killer of that CEO last week. So we're talking about 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. So as of now, he's currently facing 5 charges, including a felony count of forgery and 1 count of carrying a firearm. He was also in possession of carrying some sort of manifesto, and he talked about some of his ill wills against corporate America. The reason why this is held in Pennsylvania, you can see things are wrapping up at this point. It was a McDonald's employee working in Altoona who became suspicious about this person. Looks like he matched the description of the person they were looking for. We actually heard from some of these officials just a while ago, and they gave us a little bit more detail about Mangione's whereabouts. Take a listen.
We do have a good idea how he got from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, but there are some gaps in time. And so before we start laying out a timeline of his travel, we really need to work through all of that. And so we know that at some point it is likely he was in a variety of locations across the state, to include Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and points in between.
And of course, you can follow all other updates related to this case beginning at 10 on Fox 50.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for being with us tonight. More on the motive of that suspect also needs to be released. We're going to have that 10 o'clock on Fox 50 and 11 o'clock on WRAL. We'll see you there.